And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Sarah Gamm, psychic medium and near-death experiencer who has a bachelor's degree in astrophysics and a master's of science degree in countering weapons of mass destruction. Sarah, thanks for joining me and welcome.
Hi, thank you so much. I appreciate being here. Feel honored.
Well, it's my honor to have you, and I want to start with your near-death experience first. So can we start on the day that you died?
Yeah, that sounds crazy, but it was 13 years ago. So May of 2012, I was going in for a routine sinus surgery for a septoplasty, deviated septum. Normal surgery, lots of people get all the time, right? So surgery went fine, and the recovery room part did not. I actually woke up first. I'll go. Let me know how much detail that you want, because I remember quite a bit, including some of the more like kind of graphic-ish stuff of like that relates to blood. So I don't know if some people out there might not like hearing it, because I know some people get queasy hearing about it. So I could omit some of that. But I woke up initially, and when I wake up from surgeries, I'm very accident prone. So I've had a lot of surgeries in my life of appendage repairs. But when I wake up, I ask for stickers, because I don't know, that was something that happened a long time ago, and it just stuck in my mind waking up from anesthesia. So I was holding on to my stickers, and I'm so excited. I'm so proud of them. And I asked the nurse if I could go back to sleep. And she said, "Yeah, that's fine. I'll wake you back up in another few minutes." So I close my eyes and I'm holding on to my stickers because I'm so proud of the work I did for them. And I heard the nurse say, "She's not breathing." And I thought, who's not? Like, I pray somebody's okay. I didn't see anybody else in here with me. And I saw complete blackness, and it was me. So I stopped breathing. And then soon after that was when my heart stopped. And I don't know. Yeah, I don't know like how much to get into after that. So I'll let you ask the next question.
Well, first of all, what caused your heart to stop?
Yeah, the lead theory. So my massive team of doctors that were in my room the day I got released from the hospital told me they don't know. But my lead theory and my ENT's lead theory is ear, nose, and throat. Sorry, doctor, my surgeon. Our lead theory is that it was anesthesia. So I just had wrong concoction, and I also am sensitive to anesthesia, or that wasn't the right word. I have a resistance to it. So they just gave me a wrong dose. And so I'm lucky that it didn't happen on the surgery table.
So you heard them say she stopped breathing, and then you went into complete blackness, which we call the black void. And then
Nice.
what?
I didn't know that was called that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
It's a common place people go to. And so you're there. What happens next?
After I heard the nurse say that, and I remember my thoughts of basically praying for myself, the next thing I know, and I usually end up crying throughout this, and it's not because it was like traumatic, it's because it was beautiful. And there's like so when there's so much love in our bodies, it comes out through me from tears because I can't contain all of it. But it was, I'm sorry, my cat. So when I'll call it arrived in heaven, it was still blackness. I was in like, there was no ounce of light anywhere, but I knew I was surrounded by my family. I knew my grandma was immediately in front of me and I was hugging her. I knew my grandpa was there, and I had relatives that I'd honestly not thought of in a long time that were there to greet me, and including ancestors that I of course never met in my life. I was absolutely surrounded by the most beautiful, peaceful feeling of love and welcoming, and I couldn't see anybody, but I didn't care at all. Yeah, so it was like just this greeting, and it was all like, wait, what am I doing here? And no one, that was my thought. No one responded to me. And eventually, while I'm greeting everybody, and I'm just honestly, I was absorbing the love and the peace and enjoying the moment. And a voice came in and said I had to go, and I was like, and I assume it was God, and so I argued. I don't want to go back. He was like, you got to go back, and no, I don't. I have a choice in this. This is free will here, and he was like, no, you don't. And so we argued for a little bit, and I still had my arm around one of my grandparents that passed away. I was close with when I was young, and she stepped out of my embrace. And I don't think I've told all of these details to anyone, by the way. Um, so she stepped out of my embrace, and everybody teamed up against me and said, I have to go. And I was like, well, wait a minute, this isn't fair. Like, you guys, you're my family. You can't team up with that voice. And the next thing I knew, I woke up and I didn't feel pain, which now I know after some years of research and hearing other people's stories of NDEs, that that's you don't feel pain for a little while. Your soul is still protecting you. So I didn't feel pain, but I was so confused at why people were freaking out. I didn't know what was happening to me. And all I wanted to do was go back.
Were you angry that you were back?
No, I was confused at what was happening because everybody was frantic, like I was gonna die. And I was like, didn't they hear God too? Like, God done said I'm gonna be fine. So like, what's the panic about? So I didn't understand the situation at all. So because of the surgery, I had stents in my nose, so you couldn't put a breathing tube in my nose, and I was I would I I'm trying not to get graphic. So when the theory is when I first my heart restarted, they gave me an epinephrine shot in CPR to do that. When my heart first restarted and I took my first breath, they think that my stomach was full of blood from the surgery. And so when I took my first breath, I also vomited. So I aspirated all of that into my lungs. And when I came back to my body, I was coughing out what was in there, which was foam. It was like a foamy substance. And then I was vomiting it out more as well. So that's obviously liquid. So I was very confused. I didn't understand the different substances coming out of my face, and I didn't understand the panic. All I wanted, my ex-boyfriend at the time, all I wanted to know, I wanted people to let him know I was okay and that I would be okay, but I also couldn't talk. My breaths were less than a second long. They were very, very short. And again, they couldn't put breathing tube in my nose because of the stents that were in there. And I remember hearing them say they thought I had a pulmonary embolism, and I didn't know what that was at the time. And so I remember all of my thoughts. I remember thinking, oh, and my ex, like, he had some army medic training, and I'm like, oh, I bet he'll know what a PE is. I'll have to make sure and ask him that later. And so I remember my thoughts and still not panicking, but most importantly, I was confused. I was confused at what was happening to my body, and I recognized I didn't feel pain. I could see doctors, I could see people's faces looking at me and not and not understanding why they looked fearful or sad or panicked when they looked at me. So I don't know how I put that up there. The hand thing, but it it was very confusing. Anger wasn't a thought whatsoever. Even later, when I was transferred to the ICU, because I was at a surgery center, um, a nurse came and kept asking me. So I was stabilized, and a nurse kept asking me to call my parents. And I'd look at my ex, and he would look at me and like be like, "What am I going to tell my family? Or what am I going to tell your family? I don't know what's going on." And the third time she came in, I finally nodded my head yes to call him. But the first 2 times I was like, "I'm gonna be fine. God told me I'm gonna be out of here." And so I still didn't grasp the severity of the situation, that I was still on the brink of dying for real.
In the beginning, I mentioned that you are a psychic medium.
Hmm.
Did your psychic abilities happen as a result of your NDE?
Some of them did, like like a lot of the stories that are told and written about. So I've had ghost experiences almost my entire life. I have always been a part of the paranormal world, where it was from like R.L. Stein books when I was growing up, and I loved cemeteries. My entire life, I've loved spooky things and cryptids, and so I saw my first ghost. I was in middle school, so I think I was like 12 years old, maybe, and saw my first ghost then, and had an encounter a couple years later. I started having some my grandmother that I mentioned that greeted me in heaven. I believe I was around 14, and she started coming to me in my dreams. And now I know they're vivid dreams, but it would be memories, core memories, like you and I are talking right now. And that's how the dreams were. They were so real. And she would give me advice, and she would let me know some things before they would happen once in a while. And so as time progressed, I started seeing more apparitions and having more ghost experiences. And then after my NDE, I started having psychic things happen. So it was probably within 2 to 3 years after it, I started having psychic things where I was predicting stuff for myself. Like I would have a feeling, I have a couple of molars that are crowns, and I would have a feeling that one was loose in my mouth for a couple of days. And I'm like, why does this feel? The tooth is still there. What's going on? And when the feeling stopped, my crown popped out while I was eating lunch that day. So it was like things like that that would start happening. And then I heard a car crash in my ear very vividly one day while I was in my house. And of course, I run to look at the windows, and nothing out there. And then later that day, one of my best friends got in a car accident. So things started progressing like more to outwardly. Um, and it progressed more to the point where I just needed help. I thought I was going crazy. So about in 20, I think it was 2018. So yeah, not that long ago, I started having other people's relatives come to me in my sleep. And that had never happened before. It'd always been my loved ones or my relatives and somebody I'd known. And one of my friends I had recently met, his grandma came to me, and I knew everything about her. I knew she had pearls on. I knew the part of her hair. I knew she didn't speak English very well, and it was so terrifying. And yeah, I mean, I don't have words. Terrifying is an understatement. I thought I was absolutely going crazy. And so I finally got brave enough to ask him about his dead grandma, and if that was true, if like what I saw and what she said to me was true. And he got upset at me and started getting emotional, and confirmed that everything I said was true. And I was like, okay, I need help. I don't know how to control this. I don't know where this journey will lead me, but I don't know what to do now. And I had been having um, for most of my 20s, I was having a lot of dreams at night, kind of like the movie The Sixth Sense, when people would come to the little boy in his sleep. That's what was happening to me, but I didn't realize it because I was talking in my sleep. And my ex would let me know I was full out having conversations with people. I'd be sitting up in bed, pointing, telling folks to go away. And so between that and then other people's, relatives coming to me, I was like, I don't know what to do. I need help. Yeah, so I have worked in the intelligence community for most of my career, and I briefed the director of NSA, National Security Agency. And so he's or at the time he was a 4-star general. And I left that briefing to go to my psychic medium appointment. And that's really how more of my psychic medium journey started. It was definitely accelerated from my NDE.
What did he think about your psychic medium appointment?
Oh, I did not share.
Oh, okay.
I did not share that.
Is that how you got help, is from another psychic medium?
Yeah. Yeah, at that appointment, I arrived and I mean, immediately I had loved ones waiting for me, and it was beautiful. It was healing for not just me, but for my family, because one of my grandparents that was a influence of a lot of my personality and who I am today, he was there. And the things that she said to me was like, there's no one else in the world that would know this but me and my immediate family. Like, it's not something posted on social media. And so, my science brain goes to the Rolodex of how could she have known this?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because if you put on your astrophysicist hat, how do you explain what's going on, the other side, and, all of this stuff?
Yeah. Um, what's been fun about this journey? So that the woman I went to for that reading, she ended up being my teacher. So she also teaches psychic medium classes and has a school. So it's really neat. In one of the classes early on, before COVID, because we were in person, she mentioned one day a message she got from one of her spirit guides, and she just thought it was so crazy. And she was like, "Ah, it sounds weird, but it also makes sense." But there's that's my cat Krypton. So she goes, he kept on saying something about infinite amount of universes, and so each of us are in infinite amount of universes. And I quickly raised my hand and I said, that's not crazy. I've paid part of my undergrad degree to learn that. So we learned that in astronomy class, that there's a theory about infinite amount of universes, parallel universes. And when a major event happens, we get knocked into a new universe. So that was my first moment of realizing both of my worlds are actually one. I don't have two completely separate hats. So everything is energy. And matter cannot be created or destroyed either. So when I've had one of my best friends is in heaven, he's crossed over, and he'll mess with me once in a while. He'll make things disappear. But matter can't be created or destroyed. It's going to be somewhere. It might be in the drywall here in between layers, but it's going to be somewhere, and it'll show up. Like he had an object. It was makeup that showed up in one of my tennis shoes one time, and so it's really neat to have this perspective of everything is energy, and physics has proven 10 dimensions are real. Well, in the spiritual world, the higher dimensions, the higher your frequency and the higher your vibration. And that 10D is where God resides. God is omnipresent. In 10D, time doesn't exist. And so you could describe that from both sides of things. So God, but also science, and they're actually one. And how cool is that? How cool is it to be alive now where quantum studies are being done proving that plants have consciousness and that you can actually send energy when somebody says, I send you love or I pray for you? There are studies proving that somebody across the world will feel that love hit them.
Have you had contact with UFOs or ETs? And if so, did it start after your NDE?
Yes, and yes. And I think yes. So I'm trying to think of the timeline now. So yeah, everything would have been UFO wise within the past 5, 6 years, probably 6 years. UFO and ETs. I might say NHI for non-human intelligence as well. That's just a habit instead of saying ET or alien. During my spiritual journey, I have met quite a few ET races during meditations, peaceful contact, of course. And then I actually had an encounter of an actual being in my bedroom one night. And
This is not
I,
meditating in full consciousness.
right, yeah. And Krypton, the cat that's on my lap right now, he's my little spiritual protector, and I have seen him fight and growl at things in the air, like just batting at stuff in the air. Um, so I trust him, and even before I had my spiritual abilities, I know he's seen spirit, including my best friend that passed away. He visited me a few nights after he passed, and Krypton and I watched my friend walk around the room, and this was again before I knew I had abilities. So, and I mentioned earlier too, it's nothing new for me to have experiences in my sleep. So I'm semi-normal to being woken up and something being in my room. But at this point, I know how to protect myself and I know how to kick anything out. So it surprised me that something was there, and it looked a little bit more solid than, other like a earthbound ghost or spirits that visit. So I sit up and I actually don't even look at the time. And again, because it's like more of a normal thing. So I sit up and I just assume I'm dreaming. And then I had two cats at the time, and the other one, he sleeps through anything. If he's comfortable, don't touch him. He's going to bite you. So he doesn't move like normal. And I'm like, okay, normal. And I look at Krypton, and he's sitting up, sitting up, paws down, just staring blankly. Like, okay, well, maybe I'm awake. So then this being is pacing at the foot of my bed. And I thought, I'm definitely sleeping. So I do the pinch check. I pinch myself, and like, I look at Krypton again. I actually pet him. Like, I'm awake. And so I start talking to it. And I'm like, do you need anything? Can I help you? And I know from the protection I put on my house and myself, and I put it on the cats, that it's something here of love and light and for a purpose. So I do the typical run through the mill, like, are you taking me somewhere tonight? 'Cause, like, I would ask a spirit guide, where are we going astral travel in a dream? Like, are we going somewhere? What's going on? So, and then I eventually start asking, like, do you need some water? Do you, do you need a pillow? Do you need to lay down? And it continues to pace back and forth. And it paused at one point, and there was a portal that kind of opened up. It was a pinkish glowy color, but very faint. And the being stared at the portal, and it was like maybe a second and a half, 2 seconds went by, and the portal went away, and it continued to pace back and forth.
What did this being look like?
Yes, I was gonna get there for
Oh,
that.
okay.
Sorry, my cat just pushed the laptop. Um, so when it paused, because it was, of course, dark and nighttime, right? So when it paused, I was able to get a better look at it, and it had, I'll call it more of like a Star Trek uniform or a suit on, like very plain. And it was dark colored, and its skin looked like a bluish, almost like an iridescent purpley tint to it. But again, it was dark in my room, and then the pink glow, but it definitely looked like it was a blue tint to the skin. Did not have any hair, and it had ridges on two ridges on both sides of its head, and then a ridge, like a small ridge in the middle. No ears, but it had holes for ears, and it had more of like a Voldemort type slant to the face, like a little bit more of a nose than Voldemort. But it's a similar face to that. And it had a sword that it carried that was like, I don't know how to describe it other than saying a crystal type material. Like, it was glowing, and it felt powerful. And and that's what I felt. I felt power from this entity, and I also felt very protected. Like, it was letting me know what was coming in my life, that whoever's here and maybe watching, were protecting me, and basically have me covered. with whatever's coming. And at that point, I didn't know I would be public speaking on behalf of UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena, and UFOs being real and for disclosure from the government. So um, it was kind of a cool precursor, I guess, foreshadowing to what was coming. But I eventually stopped asking it silly questions, trying to get it to pay attention to me. And Krypton laid down and started going back to sleep. And I'm like, okay, if you're comfortable with this, I trust you too, dude. And so I laid back down and went right back to sleep.
A significant number of my near death experiencers start having contact after their NDE. I feel it like it
Oh, wow.
opens a person up in some way.
Yeah. And I have also seen a few unidentified objects in the sky. They were far enough to where I couldn't get a shape of them, but that's been more recent. Within the past couple of years, I started seeing bright lights and objects that maneuver in ways we don't have, aircraft doing those type of G-force maneuvers. So that's been more in the past couple of years, but I now know. I thought I saw some when I was little, but now I know that they were satellites, what I was looking at.
How did you become a public speaker about UAPs?
I was a person who supported the UAP Task Force in 2019 to 2020. Yeah, just trying to make sure those years are right. So I wasn't on it for too long because I ended up getting a new job, but I was a part of the task force and got to see some classified videos of unidentified aircraft. And so I came forward last year, actually, in late 2024, to let people know and validate others that have come forward. So I'm not a whistleblower like some other people are, but I am validating others that what they've seen, it's real in a classified environment.
You used to work for Lockheed Martin, right? And
Yes.
I don't know how up to date you are in UFO news, but, and you probably already know this, but it was on News Nation the other day. Ross Coulthart came out and said that the Tic Tac is Lockheed Tech.
Yeah.
Can you comment on that for us? What's your take?
Uh, yeah. So I don't know from a Lockheed perspective from working there, 'cause I supported NRO, National Reconnaissance Office. I was at one of the ground stations, supporting um, communication from satellites down to Earth and vice versa. I It doesn't surprise me that it's terrestrial objects, but I also know that some of them aren't from here. And I say that with high confidence because of others that have seen them with their own eyes and may or may not have been physically present with some of them. So I truly believe what Ross said. He is an amazing journalist. I was interviewed by him on News Nation, so I might be biased. He is a friend. I believe him, but I also believe my other friends that have had personal encounters. So I have come to the conclusion that it's both. Like maybe Lockheed was able to reverse engineer one of the crafts they captured, and there's both out there. There's unidentified Tic Tacs and a terrestrial based one.
Do you think that the Tic Tac is piloted by anybody or any type of being, or it's remotely being,
Um,
piloted?
I've always been under the assumption that the Tic Tacs and orbs that are out there are more of a drone type thing. But they also, I had a theory once when I was watching. I don't know if you want plugs of other films or anything, but Ariel, which is the film that Randall Nickerson produced and directed. Well, I don't know if he was the producer. He might have been both. I know he directed it. Uh, But so Ariel was the school in Zimbabwe, and all these kids, elementary school kids, had this aircraft that landed while they were in recess. But they saw an aircraft from different places. So if I'm looking this direction, I think it's over there. But if I'm in a different spot in the playground, I saw something different and saw they had like actual beings that came out of the aircraft. And each person was like, oh, it was standing there. So according to your reference point, you saw something different. And so that leads me to believe, because you have physics, reference points matter, led me to believe that there was some type of like anti-gravity force around the aircraft. Because if you have not anti-gravity, I said, well, it could be anti-gravity, so that's not technically ruled out, but microlensing, gravitational microlensing, or just gravitational lensing. So that would warp light around whatever you have the force field protecting it. And that would also distort something to appear in different places according to your reference point. So as I'm watching the aerial showing in DC a few years ago, there was a panel of speakers afterwards, and the lead investigator was there talking. And he actually mentioned something about a gravitational, I forget his exact words, like gravitational force field, which is basically lensing, right? And that we've proven that happens with the Hubble telescope image from, I think, the mid 90s. You could see lensing, gravitational lensing around a lot of the objects and galaxies that are out there. So I kind of put the Hubble image into one object, and think of the science of it that way.
Would you say with gravity you are bending light and from from a
Mhm.
straight line to make it curve?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you need like a massive amount of power to be able to do that? Almost like black hole type of power?
Not, I mean, yes, a black hole would do that for sure. But you just need to figure out the physics, which we may or may not know here yet. I'm not a part of any science lab anymore, so I am very much out of touch of all of that. But we are on the brink of understanding so much in quantum, computation and physics right now, that it wouldn't surprise me if somebody's figured out how to do that warping and the power output. I mean, you look what we could do, with nuclear power now. We could power satellites. We could power so much. Why can't it be something in the shape of, as small as a file cabinet? But I really don't know if that exists yet. In my happy nirvana mind, I am an optimist that it does somewhere, and I hope an adversary might not get it. I don't like more war.
As a physicist, have you sat around and thought about the calculations for anti-gravity? Because from what I remember from physics, I thought grass was like force times, I used to know the calculation of gravity, which you probably know, acceleration times mass times something else, force or something.
Yeah. Like
So,
E equals MC squared, that's energy.
yeah,
I back in undergrad days, we used to do stuff like that, and there was a horrible, tragic earthquake and tsunami that happened in Sri Lanka area, and one of our professors was from Sri Lanka. So in a class, we actually calculated how long the Earth stopped spinning from that earthquake, from the gravitational force and pull and everything of the earthquake. And it was like super duper, like small millisecond, like nanosecond, like very very minute amount of time. But that's the stuff that we would do. So we we just get together. Yeah, I'm a nerd. But we would get together after classes and just be relaxing and helping each other with homework. And then all of a sudden, we'd be talking about um, Doppler shift. And so when you go a certain speed, like a red shirt, when it passes you, when you're at a certain speed, it'll be blue or green, or it'll change a color. So we would calculate the colors that things would change if you were going, a fourth of the speed of light. And so now, no, I don't do that.
do you think we're ever going to get disclosure?
I'm always hopeful. Um, I've been through a lot coming forward. I don't wish what I have gone through on anyone, and I know what I have gone through is a fraction of what whistleblowers have. Um, I wouldn't go through all of this thinking we wouldn't have disclosure. I don't think it'll be the government saying it. I think it'll be the public. It'll be Ross Coulthart on News Nation disclosing something. It will be you on podcasts, the people come to saying, "Hey, Jeff, I have this video. I don't know what to do about it." Or I had this near death experience and then they told me this was going to happen soon. It's going to be stuff like that. It's going to be the public that is going to push disclosure more than the government, and the government's going to have to backtrack. Um, I am an optimist, and maybe sometimes that might seem naive, but in the world that we're in now, where energy is everything. Energy is all around us. It's in our cell phone. It's in the tea that I'm drinking. It is everywhere and everything. And more people are starting to understand it. They're understanding um that maybe God really is real, or maybe it's not God. It's a different source. It's Mother Gaia, it's Earth, it's everything around us. As more people wake up and they're believing a lot more than what they believed 20 years ago, disclosure is definitely going to happen.
Do you think it's really up to the ETs for disclosure to happen?
Mm, I mean, they have to show up and be a part of it, right? They've been making a little bit more frequent visits lately. By lately, I mean like the past like 4 or 5 years. Um, I think they have to be a part of it. It'll be a two-way street. I don't necessarily think that they're going to show up on the White House lawn with a 12 pack and ready to kick back a little bit. But yeah, maybe in our lifetime that might happen one day.
What kind of pressure have you suffered being involved in the UFO community?
Um, what I could talk about, um, some people lied and slandered me enough to where it got the right attention to the right person, and I was having issues at work with my clearance. So I have a top secret SCI clearance and with a CI poly, counterintelligence poly, and I was having trouble. Um, and things came up multiple times, and it was a non-issue. I'm trying to think of the words that I could talk about it. Yeah, I've had all kinds of I've had some threats sent to me of like I'm cussing at me like I'm a lion bee, and why would I lie to the public? And but the people that initially were slandering and trying to discredit me um are very well known in the UAP community. And instead of reaching out to talk to me about something, which one of them has my phone number, I've met both of them. Like I have a photo with both of them. And instead of talking to me, they continued this path of slander. And um, it what they caused on me was really bad. And it was right after one of my cats passed away. So I was already having a rough time at life. It was the holidays, and yeah, I have gotten messages. I mean, just things that are absolutely insane of telling me how much I'm lying. It's I talk too fast and therefore I'm lying. I'm a disinformation agent, and like, why would somebody risk their life and their career to come forward to say lies, which sometimes people do that because they are paid to do that. I've not gotten a dime for anything I've done. I was in James Fox's film The Program. I didn't get a dime for that. I've done so much podcasts and attended conferences on Zoom and stuff, and I haven't gotten a dime. And I really don't care to. And a lot of people have reached out to me for psychic mediumship readings from me being public. And I haven't done one of those either because I don't want to make money off of this. I want to do this still for knowing this is the right thing to do.
Why do you think the UFO community is so fractured?
Oh,
Hmm.
Krypton knows.
Krypton.
I don't know if y'all can hear your Krypton
That
meow.
that question
I
really triggered Krypton.
Yeah, I think it's fractured because of the government cover up for so long. Roswell happened. Roswell was real, and I get why you would cover things up at that time. I get, the world in the late 40s still coming down from World War II. You're recovering all of these young men coming back from seeing things I can never fathom that they've experienced. So yeah, you covered that up. You don't want an adversary getting this technology. And it kept on getting buried to a point where you can't really unbury it. You just keep burying, and then people would pass away and knowledge wouldn't get passed down. So then it would be lost. Um, and so now, current day, we have the situation where there's stuff that's buried, and then there's people that are getting paid to be public to continue burying it and to propaganda. And then you have people saying no, like, folks are being unalived for trying to come forward with this. Like, I know people that have not they're not around anymore from either recovering aircraft, they're military and recovering aircraft, and they died of some type of cancer radiation, and the government is ignoring them. Like, it's and their families, like, they need justice. But everything is so divided because you have these disinformation. The government's been lying. You don't know who to trust. And I get it. But we're all on this planet together. I don't understand the fighting and the bickering. I'm, a part of some of these messages where people say, like, I don't trust that person and I don't trust that person and I can't be in the same room with them. And I'm just like, but we all think UFOs are here and real, and NHI are real and here. So, like, why do you hate each other? I don't get it. I truly think that's my theory on it's just a topic that's been buried for so long, and the government's paid a lot of people to keep it buried. And now a few of us are stepping forward. And I was raised with a strong back and thick skin. Um, so I know I could handle a lot of what's coming.
How much tech that is out there do you think has UFO or NHI origin?
I don't know for certain. So what I would know would be of stories from others. So I don't know if I want to say exactly what, but I've heard. How about this? I'll say what I've heard. I've heard that fiber optics was initiated by an NHI race and the knowledge given to us. I've also heard the initial part of making an atomic weapon was also some knowledge passed from them. Mm, I, I've heard a few other things, but I think that's with less confidence. So that's where I'll stop.
Have you ever been to the array in Socorro, New Mexico?
Nope.
Oh, funny enough, I was driving back from Las Vegas and I just happened to stumble across the place. I didn't even know, It's like, hey, there's the place from Contact. And you can kind of like,
Such a good movie and a
yeah,
good book.
yeah. And you could just pull in there and kind of like take your own little tour. It's kind of weird. It was like if you want to donate some money in a little box. I mean, we couldn't go in any type of control room or anything, but me and a couple friends were the only ones there, and we were just kind of wandering around looking at the array. But it was really neat.
That's so cool. That would be the best place to explore.
Yeah. While you were working in the astronomy department or doing any type of astronomy studies, did you happen to see a UFO?
I did not. While I was working in the physics lab, um, we went out to the observatory quite a bit though for undergrad. So one of my astronomy classes was astrophotography, and we had to learn how to develop film. And oh my gosh, I loved it. It was really cool. And we were the first class at the time that got a CCD chip to image, and so we didn't develop film anymore. We had it on a USB stick, and that was felt so fancy doing that, and making my own composite of the Orion Nebula and different colors that I wanted to choose, and so that felt really special. But we went out to the observatory quite a bit. We even had a Messier party. So the Messier objects, I forget how exactly many there are at the moment because that number has ejected from a long time ago in my brain. But so this is for reference of folks. This is like 2003, um, and we would have Messier parties. So we'd go out to the observatory and try to find as many Messier objects as we could for that night. So we'd have like an all nighter if we could stay out all night or whatever. And I never saw any UFOs while I was doing all of that. And honestly, my brain was just so excited to be looking up. I don't know if that was even a thought then. I think I was just so focused on pointing the telescope and running over to my classmate's telescope to see what he was looking at, and um, trying to get our 18-inch telescope functioning and find the Ring Nebula. And yeah, so I never saw anything when I was in college. I never actually saw what I would consider a UFO in person with my own eyeballs, not a computer screen, until 2023. And that was I was in North Carolina.
You mentioned earlier that you saw classified videos of UFOs. Can you share with us any of what you saw?
Yeah, I could share very vague details. I know the first day I saw something more anomalous than anything else. It was, science brain goes through the Rolodex. Okay, that's not trash floating there. That's not a balloon, and it's something that maneuvered a lot. And the maneuver wouldn't be a G-force that our bodies could sustain. And then I'm like, okay, well, it's not a bird because a bird wouldn't make, a 90-degree turn. And so I just kind of sat there and hit the pause button. It's like, wow, this is real. I didn't think, I joke that ended up being a part of the task force, convincing my deputy director um, that I was, I don't know if anybody out there watches X-Files or has watched it. I was the world's biggest fan growing up. And so my motto was we had to find Mulder's sister. And so I thought, oh my gosh, Mulder, Mulder's sister, is she there? So it was like a little part of my like childhood brain kicked in. But a lot of the objects that I saw were what has been released now, and it's more like the Tic Tac video to where it's a FLIR image. The pixels are the best because it's FLIR. It's an infrared camera. So it's something similar to that, and I have seen some objects in color. I've seen stuff in satellite images as well. Um, and yeah, most of what would pass my screen was identified. It would be, bird migration, a flock of birds that looked really crazy, or, even, fishing boats that were arranged in a really peculiar way, or just different stuff like that. That it was, or parallax. So parallax, of course, is a big thing as well. And parallax, for those that don't know, it's when you're watching something and the front of it and the back of it move at different speeds because of your reference point. Going back to the reference point again. So if you're in a car and you're riding in a passenger seat and you're looking out, and let's say there is a store in the distance, and you're looking at the store, and the store's not moving too much, but it moves a little bit. But then there's some trees or shrubs along the road, and those go by really fast. That's parallax. Things seem to be moving at two different speeds. And so when you have a video and the video is looking down on the ground, so an object that's right above the ground looks like it'll be moving at a very fast speed when it might not be. It might actually be hovering, but let's say it's water. The water is rippling and looks like it's moving. So it's hard to get the actual measurement and speed of things because of parallax. So I learned a lot about a lot of things doing the analysis for all of this, but I definitely got to see some really crazy things. And one of the objects that was craziest to me that I have said publicly is what we ended up calling a flying brain. And it literally looked like a brain with a little bit of the stem, with like a plasma type thing. So it would like change and morph a little bit. So immediately I'm thinking this is a cluster of balloons. But the more you watch the video, it started to maneuver a bit. That balloons wouldn't float along the wind and pivot and turn. And so, yeah, flying brain. And I always joked with everybody that it was always a good day if I got to say flying brain. So, thank you.
Now, you were a member of the UAP Task Force.
I supported it. So, each intel agency and different entities had a head seat. I'll call it a seat. So those were the seniors on the task force. And so I supported it from NGA. Our NGA lead, I had never physically met him, but I'd only talked to him on the phone. And he would be the one that would attend the overall task force meetings. So I just supported the task force from a very small corner.
The NGA is the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency.
Yes, sorry. I usually do a better job of explaining
That's
acronyms.
okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
And what does that agency do?
So I mentioned NRO earlier, National Reconnaissance Office. So NRO builds, launches, and operates the satellites that do imaging, so imaging satellites, and NGA does the tasking and analysis for them. So I was an image analyst and an image scientist while I was at NGA, and I was at NGA for almost 9 years.
And then the UAP Task Force is a government agency, or how would you define what that is?
Yeah, so task forces are a conglomerate of multiple agencies, but it was originated by the government. I don't know who specifically like funded or anything. So the other task forces I have been on have always been a collaboration. So I was a part of Mosul Dam Task Force, and that was led by State Department, but it also had the Army Corps of Engineers, who I work for now. So I had Army Corps of Engineers on it, and I was at NGA at the time, and we had USAID a part of the mission and the task force. I mean, you name it, we had anybody who wanted to help and had knowledge. They were a part of it. And so the UAP task force was kind of similar. I don't know about like State Department involvement or anything like that because I just supported from NGA, but it was amazing collaborative space where nobody was denied. So I do know if you didn't want to be a part of it, you didn't have to be. You weren't voluntold, and it was a really amazing space to learn from others and such diverse people and diverse backgrounds that were a part of it. And some of us still talk today. We're still really good friends because it was like almost like a trauma bond that we'd been through something together and bonded through such a cool, X-Files real life thing. Yeah, so the Mosul Dam Task Force is my foundation for a lot of task forces of a collaborative space.
Earlier, you mentioned that you would put protection around yourself and around your house when you were sleeping. How do you do that?
You do it many ways. So the way I do it is not the sole purpose way or the only way. What I have loved about doing spiritual work is there's not just one way to do it. And it's not like physics where the answer is 5. It's the answer is the sky, and the answer is the mug, and it could be 5. So my way of adding protection is imagining a bubble. So I imagine a bubble of light around me, and that light comes from our heart. And I know not everybody believes in God, so you could input whatever source you believe in if you believe in a source, and sometimes that source is us, right? So we have God's light, love and light inside of us, or Gaia, or whoever, and that light comes from my heart and surrounds me and protects me, and it's the intention. So it's the intention of protection and kicking out bad things. I also ask Archangel Michael, so he is protector. He's not just God's protector; he's the protector of police and first responders and EMTs, and he's a protector of all. And so I ask him to protect me, and sometimes I'll ask for him to pour his light over me, and that forms a bubble. And then I'll ask him to pour his light and put his light around my house or around my car. And then I ask him, I'll say, Archangel Michael, don't let anything but love and light in. Everything else is not welcome. And what is here now is banished. Get rid of it. And so I'll take a few deep breaths. And on the exhale, I imagine my force and my energy and the light that I already have in me sending stuff out. So on my exhale, I exhale really hard, and I send stuff out, and it's not allowed back in my space. And you can, how I teach people, a lot of children now have abilities, and parents are seeing this. And so, like, how do I protect my child? My child's seeing things in their sleep or whatever. And so I tell them to imagine blowing a giant bubble, like from a bubble wand, and then them stepping into the bubble, and that's their protection. But there's so many other ways that you could do protection. There's even a couple of books, like a couple of small books on Amazon that are written, and I can't think of the name of them. I think Psychic Protection is the name of one of the books. Um, but that my favorite, Archangel Michael. And even if I'm out and doing something, from I'm doing going to a UAP event, I'll ask Archangel Michael to protect me while I go there, so I don't absorb other people's negative energy. It's like that what we were talking about earlier with the divide between all of this UAP world. I don't want to absorb that. And so I'll ask Archangel Michael to protect me and my energy whenever I go to these events as well.
Your bio says that you are an ordained priestess of the Order of Melchizedek. Can you tell us more about
Melchizedek,
that?
yeah. Um, so we got to pick a title, and I thought priestess sounded amazing. I could have had, reverend or preacher or priest, but priestess sounded really cool. And Order of Melchizedek is a beautiful organization Reverend Dan created. And so I had to get ordained. I am also a Reiki master, and I am certified in advanced IET, integrated energy therapy. So it's just another healing modality similar to Reiki. And so, in order to practice those in the state of Virginia, you have to be ordained, because Virginia sees these practices as a religious thing, and so you have to be ordained. And so that was one way to get ordained instead of going to the Church of the Spaghetti Monster or whatever that's called. So the day, actually, this is such a beautiful story that relates to my NDE. So the day of ordainment, the Reverend Dan, he's such it. I just love listening to stories, and any room you walk into, I know I'm not the smartest one. I'm going to learn from every single person in that room, whether it's a newborn baby or somebody that's 105. I'm going to learn from them. So he was telling stories, and I just loved listening to all of them. And he ended up telling one that was of his near death experience. And he mentioned going to blackness. And at that point, I had not heard of anybody else going to blackness. And I immediately piped up and was like, what's with the black? Everybody else gets to see color and, sit on Jesus's lap and be loved and you see your family but I'm in blackness and I'm in, the void. And he said, well, Sarah, before God created light, there was darkness. It's like, and then I started crying. I was like, oh my gosh, that is beautiful. Like I was in a place that was absolutely pure love, and that's what it felt like. So Dan's sharing all these stories, and he ends up ordaining us, and it was just such a beautiful experience. And as some people might, make fun of or deny this ordainment because I didn't go to a seminary and we didn't go through this. It was still such a moving, beautiful day with him, sharing with other people and with strangers and knowing his experience. His health wasn't the best at the time, so I was even more grateful that he came up for this because he lived in North Carolina at the time. But yeah, he created the Order of Melchizedek for people not just like me, but for those who do want to be a worker for God. And something that he said was, from this moment on, you work for God. You respond. If somebody texts you and needs help at 2 a.m, you respond. Can you deal with that? And of course, all of us were like, yeah, of course. Like, that's our personality, anyways. So it was still a very serious moment and a very serious day. I just wasn't so serious when I picked my title as priestess.
After watching this podcast, people may want to reach out to you and ask you questions or contact you in some way. Are you open to that? And if so, how can they reach you?
Yeah, I'm open to that. I will say I have a website. I am not doing psychic mediumship readings right now. I've been dealing with life and my heart's not in it at the moment. And when I do it again, I want my full heart to be in it. So I'm taking a pause from doing readings. But my website is sarahgracewarrior.com. And my Facebook page is Sarah Grace, Psychic Medium. And my Instagram, you can find me there. I really hope you could hear Krypton. Um, so my Instagram is Sarah Grace Warrior, and you can find me there. Be ready for a lot of hiking things, though, because I'm a big hiker. That's what a lot of my posts are.
Sarah, before we wrap it up, can you leave us with a last positive message?
I always, especially talking about the negative stuff in the UAP community, I'm going to say everyone you encounter is going through something. Every single person you see on the street has a million things on their plate and on their mind. And so, one, no, you're not alone going through all of that. And then two, just be kind.
Sarah, thank you for your message, and thank you for being my guest.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.